in winter, this past winter, like 2021, I decided I was gonna like start running. So I started like just one mile once or twice a week, 2 miles once or twice a week, and then I decided, you know what, I should just go for something big. I was like, all right, doing a half marathon, and I just decided on. I think I committed to that like thought in April of 2021, and then at that point, I just started running. Like, I would just run like 2 days a week, 3 days a week, still prioritizing strength training. And so I'll take you back. Like there's sort of like my Instagram stories. If you look through my Instagram, there's like a whole journey of like, I called it a journey to 13.1. And some of the first times I ran, I would run like 2 or 3 miles. I'm like, this was the longest I've ever run. I'm so out of breath. I'm drained. Like this, like giving all the different feedback like from the experience. And it was neat seeing the progression of like each week I would add like a half or a full mile more to my stats, and like each week or every other week I would try to do that. So like for week 1 I would go like 1 mile, week 2 1 mile, maybe like 1 mile and a quarter, and then week 3 I would be like 1 to 2 miles, and then keep building on that as I felt more confident and wanted to push myself. And then sometimes I would back off, and this whole journey, which led me to where we are now. And we talked about this in a previous episode, but my God, like, let's just break down running let's just break it down real quick.
Sure.
So running, you need to make sure that, yes, your cardiovascular system, like your heart and your lungs are all pumping right, like making sure that everything's working well. So yes, cardio has some great benefits. Speaking, when I say cardio, was like running, right? Running, biking, swimming. Let's just think like the baseline, like the basic stuffs, right? The basic things. Like there's also HIIT and all the different options for cardio. But let's just like call cardio like steady state cardio. So steady state cardio is just the thing that you're going to keep a steady pace for the most part over a longer period of time. So running, biking, maybe even swimming for some people. Rowing, things like that are pretty steady state. You can find a rhythm and get into it. Climbing on the stair climbers, things like that. Yeah. What happens with a lot of people is we prioritize workout over training. And if you haven't listened to that before, like if you haven't listened to that, everyone listening in, like make sure you swing back and listen to that podcast. Prioritizing strength and making it a priority. Prioritizing strength being a priority, like literally redundant. But my point is, we have to start to separate working out versus training, and training with a purpose. So with steady state cardio, you find that you get into this rhythm and you go and you do it because you're thinking it needs to be a workout. So even with a lot of these things like Peloton, like you hop on your Peloton bike and sure you'll get like a good workout because you'll be left feeling sweaty and out of breath and accomplished, but you have to spend the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes on it. And then sometimes people, even a lot of our members I know, have a Peloton. They'll do their Peloton bike workout and then they'll do like a Peloton strength workout. And I put air quotes in there, strength, because you're resistance training, whether it's body weight or whether it's with weights, there's resistance training. But in order to see actual progress, it needs to be progressive and personalized for what you're doing. All the workouts on like Peloton, and I'm really saying Peloton because it's an amazing company. I mean, it's an amazing experience from what our members hear and say, and a lot of people have it. Like, we're not knocking Peloton. We're just using Peloton.
There's definitely a place for it too.
Yes, there's a place for it too. But we're not knocking Peloton. What we are doing is making a statement that just steady state cardio as your only form of training is not going to serve you well. So back to my story.
Go for it.
We here as a whole prioritize strength, and so I want to live what we preach and teach what we preach and live it. I am someone who you've seen it. I have not negated or neglected my strength training. Yeah. I have continued to do strength training, and we mentioned this in the past episodes. Like, I'm still lifting like heavy weights. I'm lifting my body weight or more in the major compound movements: squat, bench press, deadlift, even rowing. I'm rowing my body weight, if not more. But it's not enough. It's not enough when your goals aren't aligned with strength training and cardio. If you're doing a little bit of both, it's not really going to line up well and give you the best outcome, because you won't be able to build muscle and burn fat at the same exact time. You won't be able to burn this and burn calories is like gonna happen. But like people think you have to burn fat. Anyway, before we get too far off on this, like this is going too far. Let me make sure to get back to the point.
That's okay. It was relevant.
Yes,
it was a little bit of a tangent, but we were relevant.
Relevant. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So when we're talking about like running, my experience with running, I've always prioritized strength training. However, I've never been someone who have this experience, but both half marathons, after running those half marathons, left my knees and specifically the joints of my knees being in such incredible pain, like in so much pain. And I'm still running consistently, but I'm not running half marathons. I'm running 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles, but I'm running like 25, 35 miles per week since I've been training. So I've completed it, but man, my knees have never been in that much pain. And I've done powerlifting. Like I've lifted weights beyond what some people at the gym, like some people here at the BOB, like couldn't even believe me that I said it until I had to show them the video that I lifted it.
Yeah.
But I've lost so much. So I've gained a lot. So I've gained a lot of like my cardio, like my cardiovascular system is like my endurance is like the highest, best it's ever been in my life. My strength is much lower, but how I feel physically in terms of like my body, it's so different. I've maintained the same amount of body fat over this past year. However, my weight has gone down because I'm just burning calories. And what I lost, we talked about, was my muscle. Like I've lost 3 pounds of muscle mass, which for a lot of people, like 3 pounds doesn't sound like a lot. Like if you only lost 3 pounds on a scale, you'd be like, oh, like I only lost 3 pounds. I've worked so hard, like over 3 pounds over a year. You'd be really upset that you've only lost 3 pounds. I am so upset that I did happen to lose 3 pounds of skeletal muscle mass.
Yeah.
And that my body fat is pretty much the same as it was when I had 3 pounds more of muscle. Which, man, there's a whole new tangent I can go on about like eating and how that like that reflects with strength training and how you can eat more. And so my knees, my knees are, and they're still not 100%. They're like, obviously they're back like 98% back. Maybe that's a little, maybe like 95.
It's a pretty quick rebound.
Yeah. But I think a lot of that has to do with strength training. And I do believe that a lot of that has to do with strength training. And I stretched, like I spent a lot of time stretching yesterday. So I ran the half marathon 2 days ago. So we give timeline here. So 2 days ago, I ran the half marathon. The day of, my knees were destroyed. I walked, not necessarily by choice, but I kind of did. I walked about 5 miles after running my half marathon. And I think that helped, one, with recovery, but secondly, I did a lot of stretching after that. And then just laid, I just like sat around the whole time, just let my body recover. I slept longer. I slept like 10 hours, which was fantastic. And now I feel better. Like I needed some time to recover.
Yeah.
So I feel better.
You got signals from your body to like take a break.
Signals from my body to take a break.
Yeah. It's important, I think, especially as coaches, we encourage people all the time to reflect on their own strength training or their own journeys in fitness. And I think it's even more important as coaches that we reflect. And so hearing you walk me through, right? All of our listeners, so us, but walk us through that journey of what it took to get you to that point, how the events actually went, both of those half marathons. And you didn't even really touch on this whole like split thing, which was kind of what I wanted to. If you don't, maybe share a little bit about that, 'cause that's interesting.
So like the first half marathon I did was in Baltimore, the Baltimore half marathon. I ran that. It was just one continuous half marathon. You ran the 13.1 miles without stopping. You can choose to stop, whatever. Interesting though, the dynamic. So like running through like downtown area of Baltimore, like you ran through like the residential area too. And so it was an interesting experience in that there were like people on the corners and like sometimes you'd have like DJs set up and like people playing like drums outside. It was a really cool experience. And like you could like get your water breaks and things like that along the run. Like sometimes people were handing out candy and whatever, like gummies or power drinks and things like that, like all different stuff. But in the Philadelphia one, so I ran the Rocky Balboa run, and the Rocky run is actually 2 different runs, and they made it into 3 options. And let me explain this. So there's the 5K, so that's 3.1 miles. There's the 10 mile, and then there's the Italian Stallion Half Marathon. So in order to complete the Italian Stallion Half Marathon, you have to complete the 5K and the 10 mile. So what I did was the start time was 7 a.m. So the guns went off at 7 a.m. You start running, you run the first one, so with the 5K, run through that, and once you're done, the start time for the 10 mile was 7:55. So I ran it, and I got done at like 7:30. And I took my time with it too. I like ran nice and steady, nice and easy. Yeah. It was like 10:28 or 7:28 or 7:30. Ran it, and then like just had to stand around and like stood at the starting line again. And like, man, I was like shaking my legs. I was trying to do some fast and loose stuff. I was like doing some like active like calisthenics in place. And then like you start and run. And what I didn't like was that like there was a big downtime, like big gap of downtime. And like, I think that if I had continued just to run, I would have been able to push myself a little more and a little differently, and maybe avoided some of the pain I was feeling earlier on because of like the adrenaline rush and everything else that was coming on. Of course, we're gonna be mindful with it, and like I'm mindful about it. And if you're listening in here as a member, or if you're listening in here as anybody, be mindful. Listen to your body. Like Nick, we talk about this all the time, but it's one thing to push yourself past your limits, but it's another thing to push yourself into a painful place and to continue in that pain. Yeah. In a situation like this, which again, I'm not proud to say it, but like I pushed into the pain. My knees were just like, they caught up to me. The first half marathon I ran in Baltimore, I didn't feel the knee pain until about like mile 11, like between 10 and 11. I started to feel it. And then I would just like kind of start to like jog, walk, and just kind of get through it. Without going too hard. Like if it really started to get to a place where like I just couldn't bear the pain anymore, I would just walk. And I would walk until I felt like I was ready to start jogging, and I'll go slow. And this time around, I felt that around mile like, so if I did that first 3 miles, I felt fine. And then I started up. So what would have been equivalent to around like mile 5 or 6. So only like mile 2 or 3, I started to feel it. And I was like, man, this is not good. So I walked more frequently, and I'll be interested to see what my time is, because I did a lot more walking than I did in the previous one. Mm-hmm. But at the end, I was able to finish, and I felt very proud. I actually felt, it's really interesting though, having all those, like all that adrenaline and stuff going and pumping and like really pushing through it. You push more, I think you produce more. And then when I crossed the finish line, it was this really interesting feeling. I didn't even see Lynn yet at that time. Lynn was there. And for everyone who's listening, Lynn's my wife, if you didn't realize that or didn't know that. If you're listening in here from any other reason, hi, thanks for joining us. But she was there at the finish line. I just didn't know where she was. But I crossed the finish line, and I was met with this really emotional, like I almost started crying.
Yeah, dude.
I almost started crying, and like I got like really teared up, and like nothing came down my cheek. But I definitely felt that like rush of like emotion.
Yeah.
That I finished. And that I finished even despite the pain. So like I was really proud. And it was also uncontrolled. Like it wasn't like a mindset of like, I'm so proud of myself. It just like came on. I'm like, holy crap.